it comes across and it reaches our consumers in the best way. So I would like to invite here on stage, all the way from London, Rose Coffey, Senior Foresight Analyst of the Future Laboratory.
Hello and welcome. My name's Rose Coffey, Senior Foresight Analyst at the Future Laboratory. I'm so excited to be with you all today. I've really enjoyed the last few days of keynotes and panels and insightful talks, and moreover, the amazing fashion inspo that you've all brought. So thank you very much for that. I'm really excited to be here with you all and share some work from our ongoing series, the Sustainability Reset. But before we dive in, you might be wondering who we are as the Future Laboratory. So the Future Laboratory is one of the world's leading futures consultancies. Our mission is very clear. We help businesses navigate change, spark innovation, and essentially shape better futures. And we do this by combining cultural foresight with strategic brand thinking to deliver actionable insights. So, as I said, we're here to explore the contents of our sustainability series, which is available on our consumer foresight and innovation platform, LSN Global. LSN Global is the core of our business. It's the central trends intelligence platform where we publish daily research, strategic foresight, and future-facing thinking across more than 30 industry sectors and topics. So, let's get started. I'd like to begin with this quote from Stephanie Turner, who is the founder and director of Arbor Communications, and this is the agency we partnered with for our sustainability series. So she said, "If sustainability were a brand, it would be overdue for a rebrand. Its language is tired, its purpose feels unclear, its identity is fragmented across regions and audiences. As a result, its experience is often forgettable." Now, that underscores the central theme of our sustainability series. It's about the identity crisis that sustainability is experiencing and how we can encourage more engagement and action with sustainable practices. So, how do we address this? So far, we have identified 6 different but equally critical lenses through which to rethink sustainability. Today, I'll be taking you through 2 of our reports. The first is Sustainability is Dead, which challenges the overused language and cliches that have made sustainability messaging so stale. It asks, what needs to be retired for your brand to stand out? Second, we have Designing for Extinction. This explores designing for impermanence and resilience. Here, we explore thinking beyond permanence to create systems and products that can adapt or even gracefully disappear. So first up, we'll unpack Sustainability is Dead, and this phrase is deliberately provocative. It's not about abandoning responsibility, but instead it's about recognizing that the old way of talking about sustainability no longer resonates. Today's world, which we know blends physical and digital realities seamlessly, demands a new language and fresh storytelling. So, why is there a need for this? Because research shows that people are starting to feel that sustainability isn't just tired, it's actually increasingly overwhelming and at times even insincere. Eco-fatigue and greenwashing skepticism have made sustainability feel hollow. So instead of inspiring action, it often sparks doubt. Alongside this, there's a real motivation mismatch. Younger consumers tend to prioritize convenience and affordability, over eco-credentials, while older consumers, and particularly those above 45, care far more about brand reputation and exclusivity over sustainability claims. So here's the issue. It's not a priority to people because it's not resonating. Sustainability is a brand statement, sustainability's lexicon, and the hundreds of sustainability buzzwords such as eco-friendly, green, planet positive, etc., just aren't landing in the same way anymore. To make it relevant again, we must reimagine the story, turning responsible choices into something intuitive, aspirational, and practical. So here, we've identified some of the ways we can start to think about that. We've broken these down into silent sustainability, proactive luxury, and future legacy. And we'll begin with looking deeper at silent sustainability. So the idea here is that sustainability doesn't always need to be visible to be effective. It can be embedded seamlessly into a product or a service so that responsible practices feel effortless for the consumer. In many industries, values like craftsmanship, provenance, or longevity naturally align with sustainable outcomes. And when these principles are already part of the product or experience, sustainability doesn't need to be shouted about. It can be a silent layer of quality. Now, this is not to suggest that brands should hide accountability. Rather, transparency should be accessible for those who seek it. It just doesn't need to be the main story. And digital product passports are a great example of this. We've heard a lot about these over the last 4 days, but DPPs are a cornerstone of the European Commission's Eco-Design for Sustainable Production regulation, and will track essential product details from origin and materials to environmental impact and options for disposal. They exist for customers to access if they want more information, but they aren't part of the physical product or marketing. And a great example we have here is Coach's partnership with Eon to embed NFC-enabled digital passports into its Coachtopia line. So with a simple smartphone tap, shoppers can explore things like product provenance and environmental impact on their own terms, and even relist an item for resale. Now we move on to proactive luxury, which is about enriching the ownership experience with preemptive and premium services. So rather than leaving sustainability or care as an afterthought, this is where brands step in early to anticipate consumer needs and make responsible ownership feel indulgent. And Save Your Wardrobe is a really interesting facilitator of this. It combines a wardrobe management app with a full ecosystem of repair and aftercare services. The app helps users know what they own by scanning, identifying, and storing garments digitally. The platform also links users with local clothes care specialists, making it easy for them to access local repair and restoration services. And these are presented as desirable post-purchase care offerings, so more like a concierge service. And finally, we have future legacy, which is about shifting the conversation from obligation to provenance and inheritance. How can we create products that endure, inspire, and carry meaning over time? This makes it personal for many, not in a superficial or performative way, but in a way that connects to their families, their identities, their communities, and the world they'll leave behind. I love this case study. It's a British fashion brand, Peachy Den, and its heirloom collection. So in recognition of female craftsmanship, the brand breathed new life into vintage handmade doilies and combined them with deconstructed men's shirts. They were one of a kind, hand-sourced, and stitched piece by piece. So it was a way to honor the past, but also respect the future. So next up, in our Sustainability Reset series, we have Designing for Extinction. Here we look at how we should intentionally be creating products, systems, and materials that have a planned finite life cycle, so they can be phased out responsibly. The linear, or what's often known as the take, make, waste economy, where resources are extracted and manufactured into products and then disposed of as waste, is being phased out. Now, there are opportunities emerging for brands to innovate, differentiate, and ultimately create new value. So, how did we get to this point, And what's driving this? Well, consumers, regulators, and investors are all shifting their expectations. Longer-lasting products, repairable designs, and circular systems are becoming table stakes in business and commonplace in consumers' lives. At the same time, material costs are rising, and stricter legislation is making wasteful business models riskier as well as more expensive. But innovation is also accelerating, with concepts like digital product passports, as I mentioned earlier, modular design, regenerative materials, AI-driven predictive care models, and digital twins, which I'll talk about in a moment. These are all creating a changing market in which brands can fall behind. So let's have a look at the innovation avenues for designing for extinction. We have longevity products, next-generation design, precision consumption, curated continuity, and circular intelligence. Let's dive deeper into longevity products. In this instance, we're talking about how products are being designed to be repairable, modular, or forever as a key brand value driver. Luxury and premium brands have been normalizing this for years, offering repair, reconditioning, or renovation services that align with bespoke craftsmanship and individual relationships. But today, the right to repair movement, which is now legislated across the EU and some US states, further reinforces consumer expectations for products that are not only preservable, but upgradable over time. A great example is of this UK-based brand, Finister. So they run monthly repair workshops as part of their Lived and Loved scheme. Hosted in small groups and rooted in local community, the sessions foster intimacy and shared purpose. Attendees are taught the same techniques that are used in-house, such as darning knitwear, patching jackets, and using the Japanese mending technique shashiko. Now, in next-generation design, we take a closer look at materials themselves. With increasing regulations and legislation, brands can no longer rely on short-lived, throwaway components without risking reputational and financial damage. Consequently, we're starting to see a pivot towards high-performance, regenerative materials, which are solutions that don't just reduce harm, but they actively give back to ecosystems. A strong example of this is Garni, a leading innovator in biofabrication. So the brand has built a dedicated team to test next-generation materials, trialing about 30 innovations at any one time. This allows Garni to feed back on the practical requirements needed to bring these new materials to market. And first launched as part of their Autumn-Winter 2024 collection, Garni created clothing and accessories made from psyllium, a material grown using bacteria that feed on fruit waste. Next up, we have precision consumption, and this is about minimizing excess by design. And we're already engaging with it daily, for example, with Nespresso pods that brew the exact amount of coffee and use the exact amount of water required. But some of the most successful innovations are indeed in fashion, with platforms like Rent the Runway, Buy Rotation, and Loanhood, in which consumers borrow what they need for a specific occasion instead of overbuying. The opportunity here is for brands to design precision into the user experience so that responsible consumption feels like an upgrade in value rather than a sacrifice or a restriction. In fashion, additive manufacturing is a brilliant example of this. Karina Bond is pioneering a new form of couture through her 3D printed garments. So she draws in the air using a handheld 3D pen and TPU filament. Here, the designer is replacing traditional construction methods with a circular, customizable production model, combining technology with bespoke craftsmanship. Next up, we have curated continuity, and this is becoming one of the most significant shifts in luxury. For decades, second-hand implied compromise, but today that stigma has flipped, and resale now signals taste and discernment and value. Brands like Rixo are building resale and take-back programs as value engines, turning pre-owned goods into aspirational assets and long-term customer touchpoints. At a cultural level, this reflects a desire for meaning in an age of algorithmic overload. Resale gives products a before story, where they're imbued with a much richer narrative. A key example of this is from the department store Selfridges and its Re-Selfridges initiative. So the department store incorporates resale services into its core offering. In 2022, it sold almost 20,000 pre-loved items and thus created a target of 45% of transactions to be circular by 2030. So they really are leading the way. Finally, for this section, circular intelligence looks at how the circular economy has moved from fringe concept to now being considered a smart, data-driven approach to business. Blockchain traceability, for example, can authenticate and extend product life cycles. Alongside this, digital twins and digital product passports are emerging as key tools to simulate, track, and ensure circularity from production to disposal. All of these technologies help brands and investors make smarter, financially sound decisions while embedding circularity into core operations. A really great example of this is Ursa Leo. So their digital twin technology allows businesses to simulate products, materials, and spaces before they exist physically. This means brands can predict where repairs might be needed or how customers will interact with a retail space, for example, before making any real-world investments. So here, what started as a sustainability-focused concept has evolved into a business intelligence tool. It helps the company make data-backed, financially sound decisions. And that wraps up my brief, but hopefully informative overview of our sustainability series. I hope it was valuable and left you with some interesting insights. Everything I've touched on today and much more is available to explore in full on LSN Global, which is our dedicated platform for consumer foresight and future-facing strategy. But we wanted to give you something to take away from today. So for now, I'd like to offer complimentary access to a sample of one of our most in-demand reports, and one I'm very proud to have authored. It's Future Forecast 2026. So this explores 50 cross-sector trends set to shape 2026 and beyond. We look at things like skinwear and beauty to emerging epicenters in travel and hospitality. And you can access that report by scanning the QR code on screen. It's a really great resource for teams looking to stay culturally fluent, get ahead of customer expectations, and ultimately make better future-facing decisions. But I hope this talk has inspired you to think boldly and act strategically in the months ahead. Thank you.